evening. Thanks for joining us. This is the news on NTA International. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Shaguna Jai. Let's start by bringing you the headlines. Federal Executive Council approves medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2022 to 2024. President Buhari decorates Chief of the Army Staff with new rank, just as National Crisis Management Doctrine comes into effect. And President of Haiti assassinated at his private residence. About 113 billion naira has been approved by the Federal Executive Council towards the provision of the needed infrastructural projects in parts of the country for enhanced socio-economic development. This followed the consideration of several memoranda and reports presented by ministries, departments, and agencies. State House correspondent Adam Musambo reports.
Two of the memoranda submitted by Works and Housing Minister Babatunde Fashola includes the one seeking approval for the augmentation of the Bordeaux Boni Road and Bridge contract sum by 79.3 billion naira.
199.923 billion naira is now the total revised contract sum, and Council approved. Major highlights of the augmentation was to revise the prices, which were based on 2002 prices when it was awarded. The component of the project itself is 3 main large bridges over the Afa Creek, the Opobo Channel, and the Nanabie Creek. And then there are 10 mini bridges and about 24 kilometers of road network. And this is in Rivers State.
The council approved for the purchase of Kanti Towers, which is located at 35 Tukumba Demola Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, for the new headquarters of Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, which is NIMASA, in the sum of 17,471,005,130 naira 54 kobo, inclusive of 7.5% tax.
The council also ratified the emergency procurement on the repairs of 32 federal roads carried out in Lagos State between 2017 and 2019 worth 7.28 billion naira. On his part, the presidential media advisor Femi Adesina announced the council's approval of ecological fund projects for the third and fourth quarters of last year.
There soil erosion and flood control and pollution control intervention projects. The total sum of these contracts is 16,041,101,334.79.
The projects are located in all the 6 geopolitical zones of the country.
Then there was approval for the revised estimates total cost on the contract for the construction of Damaturu, Gashua, Nguru, 132 kVA double circuit transmission line for the Transmission Company of Nigeria.
During the high-level engagement, the report on the 9th meeting of the National Council on Lands, Housing and Urban Development held in Plateau State was received by the council. The meeting had at its theme, Housing Delivery in the COVID-19 era and beyond. From the State House, Adam Musambo, NTA News.
The Federal Executive Council has approved the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper for 2022 to 2024. The document, a requirement of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, projects 13.98 trillion naira as budget size for the 2021 fiscal year. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed announced this while briefing newsmen after the council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. Once more, let's hear from State House correspondent Adam Sambo.
The medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper describes Nigeria's socio-economic developmental objectives and priorities for the next 3 years. The report highlights the key drivers of government revenue and spending plans towards improving the nation's macroeconomic situation and reposition the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth.
Key information is that the Nigerian economy recovered from a negative growth of minus 1.8% in 2020 to 2.5% in 2021 and then to 4.2% in 2022. Also, the inflation has moderated from a 19 months high. It's now moderated 2 months now that is coming down to 17.93%. And our foreign reserves stand at 34.2 billion at the end of May, which is a 640 million decline from the previous month.
Consequently, the key macro assumptions approved by the Council show that for the year 2022, there will be a crude oil benchmark price of $57 per barrel, a crude oil production of 1.88 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 410 naira 15 kobo to $1 as well as an inflation rate of 13%.
What is interesting is that the non-oil GDP continues to grow at 169.69 trillion compared to oil GDP of 14.68 trillion. We have also presented to the federal government the projected revenues for the 2022 to 2024. Specifically for 2022, the revenue that we expect is 6.54 trillion and 2.62 trillion to accrue to the Federation account and VAT pool respectively. And then that there will be a net oil and gas revenue available for the Federation account FAC for distribution. It will be 6.51 trillion in 2022. This revenue is projected to increase in 2023 to 9.15 trillion. The total expenditure we had projected and approved by Council is an aggregate expenditure of 13.98 trillion naira. This includes 1.1 trillion naira of government-owned enterprises expenditure, as well as grants and donor-funded projects in the sum of 62.24 billion. This means that this budget is just 3% higher than the 2021 budget in terms of the size of expenditure.
The minister also reported to Council a 5.62 trillion naira budget deficit projected for 2022 as against the 5.60 trillion naira in 2021. This, she explained, represents 3.05% of the estimated GDP, which is slightly above the 3% threshold specified in the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
The FRA empowers Mr. President to exceed the threshold if, in his opinion, the nation faces national security threats, and it is our opinion and FEC agreed that we can exceed it. The deficit is going to be financed by both domestic and foreign borrowing in the sum of 4.89 trillion and privatization proceeds of 90.73 billion and drawdowns from existing project-tied loans of 635 billion.
Clearly stated in the report is that the projected debt-to-revenue ratio is 43%, which the minister described as an improvement over those of the preceding years, which stood at 85% in 2020 and 58% in 2019. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
A look at the legislature. The judicious implementation of the 2021 supplementary budget will provide the renewed force needed to address Nigeria's security and health challenges, especially the COVID-19 scourge. This resonated on the floor of the Senate during the consideration of the 2021 supplementary budget of 982.7 billion naira. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Unkwa reports.
On the 23rd of June 2021, the Senate debated on the general principles of the 2021 supplementary budget. That same day, the bill was passed for second reading and referred to the Senate Committee on Appropriations. 2 weeks after, the Senate Committee on Appropriations has concluded work on the money bill, presented it at plenary, and the Senate has passed the bill. The amount increased by 86.8 billion as a result of some security agencies that were underfunded or not even provided for in the supplementary budget.
by the Nigerian Navy, the Ministry of Police Affairs, Defense Intelligence Agency, Department of State Security Services, and Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
We should continue with funding of our security agencies in 2022 appropriation bill because we have to overcome the security challenges our country faces.
Senate approved external borrowing of $6.183 billion for funding of part of the 2021 budget deficit.
It's not a new borrowing as such. It is exactly what we recommended in that budget that we are actually exercising here.
Thereafter, higher institutions establishment bills took the center stage as the University of Maritime Studies Oron Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ayo Eyakenyi, Institute of Information and Communication Technology Ogoja Establishment Bill by Senator Stephen Ode, the Psychiatric Hospital Act Amendment Bill by Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, and the Federal Capital Territory Customary Court Act Amendment Bill, sponsored by Senator Opayemi Bamidele, were passed. The Federal Orthopedic Hospital Lafia Jikwara State Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Sadiq Umar, the Explosives Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill by Senator Umaru Tanko Almakura, and the Recovery of Premises Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill, sponsored by Senator Stephen Ode, passed second reading.
Many Nigerian communities suffer from severe pains of the bones and other related ailments due to a distance between the communities and tertiary health care institutions.
So they need to spread automatic hospitals, even if it is on a smaller scale, around the whole country.
For importers and suppliers to obtain authorization for explosives before these are sold to end users.
With this innovation, investors' confidence will be rekindled to venture into the housing sector in order to solve the housing deficit problem bedeviling our nation.
Senator Binos Yero's bill for the establishment of Federal University of Education, Newman, Adamawa State, and the Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Iwo, Osun State, by Senator Adeyemi Oloriowo, also passed second reading. Senate has adjourned plenary to Tuesday, the 13th of July, 2021, from the National Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The new Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, has been formally decorated with his new rank. The decoration ceremony, which preceded the meeting of the Federal Executive Council, was performed by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adam Musambo will have the details for us.
The decoration of the new army chief with his new rank by President Muhammadu Buhari, assisted by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, followed the confirmation of his appointment by the National Assembly. Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya was appointed Chief of Army Staff on the 27th of May this year to succeed the late Army Chief, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. Holder of Bachelor of Arts in History and Masters in International Affairs and Diplomacy, the new Army Chief from Bodinga local government area of Sokoto State was commissioned as a lieutenant in 1990 and rose to become Major General in the Nigerian Army in the year 2017. President Muhammadu Buhari did not speak at the brief ceremony, but the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, told NTA News that the new Army Chief is not unmindful of the high expectations from him.
The President has already talked to us how he wants us to operate. Like every other chief, his mandate is to bring an end to this banditry, kidnapping, and the Boko Haram issue. Nigeria will not allow this kind of nonsense to be happening. We won't take on anybody who is carrying arms, and that is the truth about it. I don't think there is anything wrong to get rid of your enemy if he wants to get rid of you. And that's what the President is saying. You cannot hold a weapon and be allowed to stay alive.
Also speaking to newsmen, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya was emphatic that everything will be done within the limits of the law to justify the trust and confidence reposed in him by the President.
I want to pledge my unalloyed loyalty on behalf of officers and men of the Nigerian Army, and also continue to do our very best to arrest these challenges we have, particularly insurgency, insecurity, and other violent crimes. We are already getting successes. We will leverage on that, including our experience in this job, and by the grace of God, we shall get there.
What message do you have to the bandits and other criminal elements undermining national security and stability? The president said they will be treated in the language they understand.
That's what we have started doing already, and many of them have been sent to God to go and answer for their crimes. We'll continue to do that.
Before his appointment as Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, a highly decorated officer, was the commander, Theater Command Headquarters, Operation Hadinkai, fighting terrorism and insurgency in Nigeria's northeast. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The National Crisis Management Doctrine developed by the Office of the National Security Advisor has come into effect. Implementation of the key components of the strategy, which requires a multi-agencies collaborative approach, necessitated a simulation training exercise underway in Abuja. Kelvin Ehunwahi reports.
It is a drill, a multi-agency counter-terrorism response simulation at the Moshood Abiola Stadium, as terrorists shift focus to soft targets like markets, churches, and other public places. Security agencies are preparing for eventualities. When a terrorist attack occurs in a crowded place like a stadium, the impact is usually huge. The panic and stampede may come with high casualties. How security agencies will respond, starting from the Control Incident Center coordination, timing, evacuation and treatment of injured persons, were practiced in an operation codenamed Idahun Konkon, meaning quick response.
You can see the response of all the MDAs here. We have each one doing what they are supposed to do in line with the doctrine. It's so beautiful.
It's helped develop the medical SOP, and we've done the same for assault forces, counter ID, and K9. So those, and there are lots of other things.
Assisting the various MDAs with critical training that's going to help Nigeria in their time of crisis.
For a metro train station attacked with a chemical weapon, a response procedure was simulated at the Idu metro station in Abuja, underlining the importance of inter-agencies collaboration in counter-terrorism operations. Officials who observed the simulation are optimistic that with fine-tuning, the standard operating procedures will be ready to be replicated at local and state levels in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwahi, NTA News.
Right, let's go on a break. We're back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Agriculture plays a crucial role in the economic diversification roadmap of the federal government, and the present administration says it is willing to partner with the Republic of Belarus towards achieving mechanization of the sector, as well as growth of Nigeria's digital economy. Secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, stated this when he received the ambassador of Belarus to Nigeria in Abuja.
With the level of engagements that you have been able to develop with our principal organs of government in Nigeria, Nigeria will have a special place in the heart of the Belarusian government so that we can drive that process.
We can produce up to 60,000 tractors in different modifications annually based on the requirements. And this is one of our main focus in Nigeria right now.
Greece pledged to improve their balance of trade as well as diplomatic ties, which dates back to 1992. UNESCO is looking forward to renewing partnership with the Nigerian government on developmental issues, including water resources management. It is a decision both parties are committed to, as the Nigerian permanent representative to UNESCO visited the Ministry of Water Resources in Abuja. Musbah Wahab reports.
Dr. Hajo Sani is the new Nigerian permanent representative to UNESCO, set to fully resume her diplomatic mission in Paris. But before leaving, she is beginning a charity from home, arming herself with relevant information about developmental programs of Nigeria's government for possible areas of collaboration and improved partnership. On this visit to the Water Resources Ministry, she expresses the inclination of UNESCO to expand scope of partnership with the country, particularly the project to save Lake Chad from extinction of the attendant security challenges which are also of concern to Nigeria.
This is one area we feel that we can look at and see what we can kickstart, something that will benefit not only Nigeria but the whole of Lake Chad countries, as well as to make UNESCO to understand that we are there, the program is there, and it will attract their attention to come and do something meaningful.
It is a partnership much wanted and found as Water Resources Minister Suleiman Adamu updates the permanent representative on the efforts so far made by the riparian countries and the commitments of the African Union, African Development Bank, leading to preparation for the inter-basin water transfer from Congo River to the Lake Chad.
We set out with two objectives. Number one, we wanted an international consensus that Lake Chad should not be allowed to go extinct, that is for it to dry up. Yeah. Number two, to get an international consensus that we need to replenish the lake through the interbasin water transfer project. And both objectives were achieved by that conference.
Before these appointments, Dr. Hajo Sani was the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Women Affairs and Administration, Office of the First Lady of Nigeria. In Abuja, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
On the global scene, Haitian President Jovenel Moïse assassinated in his home late Tuesday night. The First Lady was also shot during the attack carried out by unidentified gunmen. Let's get the details from Justin Bemonyi.
Haitian President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in an attack on his private residence, according to a statement Wednesday from the country's interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph, who called the killing a hateful, inhuman and barbaric act. The statement also reveals that First Lady Martine Moïse was shot in the overnight attack and hospitalized. Haiti was already in a precarious political situation before the assassination, having grown increasingly unstable and disgruntled under Moïse. In the early morning hours of Wednesday, the streets were largely empty in the Caribbean nation's capital of Port-au-Prince, but some people ransacked businesses in one area. The country's interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph said police have been deployed to the National Palace and the upscale community of Pétionville and will be sent to other areas. Haiti's economic, political and social woes have deepened recently, with gang violence spiking heavily in Port-au-Prince, inflation spiraling and food and fuel becoming scarcer at times in a country where 60% of the population makes less than $2 a day. Moïse and supporters maintained that his term began when he took office in early 2017, following a chaotic election that forced the appointment of a provisional president to serve under a year-long gap. Haiti was scheduled to hold general elections later this year. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden condemned the heinous killing of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse on Wednesday and offered U.S. assistance in the aftermath, hours after the assassination shocked the Caribbean nation. State Department and White House officials said they were still gathering facts about what happened and that the U.S. Embassy in Haiti was bracing for a protracted period of instability in the wake of the killing. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Stephen Aluo Agusa has taken over the mantle of leadership as the 23rd President Rotary Club of Wuse Central Abuja. Haman Jabani reports that members used the investiture to dedicate themselves to humanitarian services.
Both old and new members as well as invited dignitaries converge on the venue to be part of the investiture which comes yearly. The investiture of Stephen Ula Agusa as the 23rd president of Rotary Club of Wuse Central Abuja 2021-2022 also witnessed the flag off of humanitarian projects which include donation of food and non-food items, shelter for orphanages, and laboratory equipment to school to assist the vulnerable in the society. Rotary Club Wuse Central Abuja has over the years focused on charitable work and community transformation, which the president wants to continue to build on the existing platforms.
We intend to see how we can do more contributions to Rotary Foundation so that we can in turn get grants from them that will help us do other projects within our community that can meet the standards of those communities.
Some guests and Rotarians have this advice for the president.
Leading volunteers is always an equaling task, and I will always tell him that you need to listen to each and everybody. You need to carry everybody along.
The best you can do at any given time. You offer the best you can, and you leave the rest to God. There are no issue cast on stone, but whatever comes, we take in our stride, and we try to make sure that we contribute our own quota as Rotarians.
A lot of villages on Airport Road and in other parts of the FCT, they don't have water, believe it or not, and they're in the FCT. So we go in there, we build boreholes for them.
The occasion featured an induction of the Board of Directors 2021-2022 and presentation of awards. The Rotary Club Wuse Central was chartered in 2000 and has 108 members. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has ruled that former Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun was ineligible for national service as at the time of her graduation. The court, presided over by Justice Taiwo, ruled that the ministerial appointment of Kemi Adeosun was not illegal, neither was it unconstitutional, even without presenting the NYSC certificate. The court maintained that Adeosun was not supposed to present herself for National Youth Service because under the 1979 Constitution, which was in force at the time of her graduation, she was not a Nigerian citizen or when she turned 30. The Federal High Court asserted that the Constitution did not require her to present her first-degree certificate or any other certificate, including the NYSC certificate, to be appointed a minister. The court said since the 1979 Constitution, which was in force at the time, did not recognize dual citizenship, Adeosun could not have served because she was a British citizen. Adeosun graduated from the University of East London in 1989 at the age of 22. The court ruled that Nigeria citizenship only reverted on the extant constitution by which that time Adeosun was well above 30 and by the court ruling ineligible to participate in NYSC scheme as the scheme is exclusively reserved for Nigerians. We're done with the news. Thank you very much for your time. But remember, we're still on in the fight against rape and rapists. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Shagun Ajayi. Bye.